What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're going to take a look at 5 extremely overpowered builds in Remnant 2. These are all insane in their own right, whether that be for high burst damage, mega tank potential, or amazing crowd control. I've tested each of them personally and can confirm they are fun as heck. So let's check out the 5 most OP builds I recently tried in Remnant 2. Build number 1 is what I like to call the Big Bloom build. This revolves entirely around the shotgun Sporbloom and its ability to deal over 10k damage. So the inspiration for this build actually came from Bolt Jameson. He posted a speed kill challenge where he knocked out several bosses in less than 10 seconds after he entered the fight. Now, it turns out replicating this is much more difficult than it looks, but the build itself is astounding. We have the Salvaged Heart for a quick heal, Abrasive Whetstone to increase crit when enemies are bleeding, Zania's Malice for more weak spot damage, Probability Cord for more crit damage, Ring of Flawed Beauty for even higher weak spot damage, and Akari Warband for even more crit. All of the equipment makes Sporbloom hit massive crit numbers, and if you swap weapons fast enough, you will demolish bosses. You can manage to proc the Akari Warband before entering a fight with Sporbloom's mod. This requires you to dodge immediately after firing the mod next to yourself, which is not required by any means, but it gives you the higher damage right away. You pop the corrosive rounds in your sure shot, use both your skills, and then wait until your reticle shrinks. Once it shrinks, you know your damage bonus from the hunter skill is active, and you can swap as fast as you can, firing instantly from both of your guns. Weak spots are required for this to work, and the smaller the weak spot, the harder this is to use. However, it might be the fastest way to defeat bosses in the game. 10,000 crit is just nasty, and even after your gunslinger skill runs out, you can reload and shoot a bomb anytime you want. Amazing build that's really fun to try and speed kill bosses with. Build number 2 revolves around status and crit damage. The Vile Warlord uses Ritualist to spread statuses and Challenger to gain high burst damage. You're going to want the Void Heart to get a defensive heal, but really most good relics are going to work fine. The Sinister Totem will greatly increase your status damage, as with Sparkfire for the main gun, you can activate its buff almost 24/7. Band of Fanatic increases status damage. Ahane Crystal is the best damage buff in the game if you're using statuses. Stone of Malevolence means infinite mod regen, and Burden of the Destroyer increases status and gun damage. You will have very high crit chance from corrosive rounds and fetid wounds on the shotgun, and the status will always be ticking away with very high damage. Also, it turns out statuses very quickly activate Challenger's Rampage skill, letting you reliably gain much more damage when you need to. I was more than surprised with this build, as it turned out to be one of the best for not only boss fights but dungeons as well. You melt enemies quickly and spread those statuses so much that the Sinister Totem racks up to 50% damage quickly. And the Sparkfire is a blast anyway, being one of the most fun guns in the game to use. For a boss like Venom who has an annoying mechanic such as armor, this build is perfect. And when weak spots are available, you have the high status damage on top of thousands from your main fire. I cannot recommend this build more, and I believe Chaos Gaming did a very similar build, just proving how powerful the idea really is. The best DPS Deceit build. Man, Deceit is so reliable and ain't even funny. You use this build on any boss and have guaranteed high damage with super nice ease of use. We run the Salvaged Heart for an instant heal. Butcher's Fetish grants much more crit chance and damage after using a charged melee attack. Feyrin's Sigil grants you higher mod regen on crit and weak spot hits. Probability Cord ups the crit damage. Archer's Crest is a must to speed up Deceit's rate of fire, and Zania's Malice increases weak spot damage by up to 30%. Deceit, alongside the Hero Sword, has to be the best overall build in the game for ranged DPS. It creates weak spots on any of the bosses and grants you extremely high damage with massive stagger, dropping those bosses onto the ground, giving you even more time to damage them. With Shroud and Bulletstorm as your skills, you're going to shoot 6 bullets quickly, gain your invisible buff, and then shoot quickly once again. I think if you try this setup here, you will fall head over heels for Deceit. Yeah, it isn't really a dungeon build with the focus on melee and range damage, but in boss fights, there is nothing better. I can guarantee you that. Just make sure you can activate your mod quickly using Flashcaster, and be sure to use your charged melee when you know you can get in a bunch of damage. Bosses love to move around and hide their weak spots in this game. It's part of the challenge. Use this build and you remove all of those mechanics, and you don't need to aim that well. Just rip through health bars with ease. A Sheen Shot's personal favorite right here, and that will always be one of the best builds in the game. Spin to win is maybe not as OP as the other builds on this list, but it is something you must try if you can. This revolves solely around spinning your flail and never stopping. Tranquil Heart increases your health regen, Indignant Fetish gives you more defense and damage when you get hit, Brawler's Pride is amazing for melee builds, increasing melee attack speed by 15%. Bisected Ring grants you infinite stamina, Seal of Empress increases your health amount, and the Ring of Crisis gives you a burst of shield if you almost die, giving you time to regen your health back up. There are a couple changes you can make here and there depending on the boss and the fixes they get, but just look at this footage. You can lore walk towards the most cocky bosses and laugh off every attack they throw at you. Your damage reduction is extremely high with really good life regen. As we're using Alchemist, we can get 4 total concoctions for much more stats. The best ones to take would be Mudtooth Tonic for more health, Bark Extract for more armor, Strong Drink to dodge if needed, although Root Water is a good substitute for fights you know you won't dodge in, and Meat Shake for the extra DR. You never really need to let go of the swing flail button, except to activate skills. And while not the most convenient thing all the time, it is the most amusing thing in the game. Imagine a boss gives you a monologue about how they're gonna end you quickly, and then you just slowly spin this metal ball around your head for the next 10 minutes. Kaula, Cancer, Phelan, Red Prince, Magister, maybe even the Ravager are great bosses to use this one on. And you can even throw on Boar to one of your guns if you want to boost the damage. Really fun idea if you're looking for something different. Tempest of Flame is the holy grail of mod builds. You can do a very similar setup with a few different weapons and it just obliterates the game, making it very easy to progress through Apocalypse. The Shielded Heart will be your best source of defense that can tank attacks when needed. Detonation Trigger beefs up your explosions and adds fire damage to them as well. Burden of the Gambler increases crit from your explosions, Probability Cord ups that crit damage by 30%, and Stone of Malevolence grants infinite mod regen, with the Burden of Destroyer increasing all damage by 15%. You can also run the Ahane Crystal here instead in boss fights for even more results as well. The entire idea is to abuse elemental damage to increase mod spam. Archon with the Stone of Malevolence means your Firestorm instantly regens both of your mods. Starshot's mod can then be fired to grant Mega Blast damage. And what's cool is Starshot's main source of fire explodes, making it really work with the detonation trigger. Ritualist greatly boosted the power of mod builds as you gain much higher crit chance and some of the best mods can deal status damage. So in the end, you get a status mod hybrid build that nullifies dungeons and bosses. Sometimes this build is too good and it makes running other things hard to do. How can you give up exploding everything as many times as you like? And there you have 5 absurdly OP builds in Remnant 2. The Flail build here is definitely the weakest of the 5, but it is a blast to try out, and being nearly unkillable as you spin your flail around is quite fun. All the others, however, completely trivialize certain bosses and can make your life much easier if you happen to struggle or just want to have a good time in general. Hopefully you got something out of these builds, and I'll catch you next time.